Hello there, everybody. This is a very special from a certain point of review, I guess. I'm Josh,
I'm Adam.
and tonight we are reviewing Raya and the Last Dragon, and this latest animated film from Disney is now in both theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access. So that'll come with a $30 cost on top of your monthly fee for Disney Plus. But you have the choice to either go see it in theaters or watch it in the comfort of your own home. So, Adam, I guess my first question is, in your opinion, how should this film be seen?
I haven't seen it in my own home yet. I only saw it in the
Aha,
theater. So,
this is true.
I mean, if you can go to a theater and feel okay about going to going out and seeing it that way, I mean, I would suggest you do that. I felt pretty safe in our theater. But if you don't, I know a lot of people that did stay home and still really enjoyed it. I guess it just comes down to how what you feel okay doing.
Yeah, it's a matter of personal preference, I think, and
Yeah.
depending on your family size and everything.
Mhm.
Let's say if you have a family of three, I have a family of three. Adam has a family of three. We each spent like $42 around about. And so if you have a family at three and you watch it at home for $30, maybe you're saving $12 there, so $10 or something like that. If you're not having any snacks or buying any extra snacks or
Well, I mean,
popcorn or drinks or
even if you're buying snacks at home, it's going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than buying snacks at a theater. Because I mean, that's what set it over for me. It's
yeah, yeah.
$16
And
for two pops and a popcorn.
right, yes, the concessions at the theater we were at were not cheap.
No.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm really curious to see what the visuals would be like in Cinemark and the XD screen because we talked about
That's
on our
something I
news
had.
segment that
Yeah. Right.
wasn't showing at
Right.
Cinemark.
Right. Yeah, that's
Go
something
ahead,
I had
continue.
written down to talk about later. Is just the colors in this movie and just see how those might pop on a screen like that.
Hmm.
Would be
Yeah,
really. I'd really like to see how that looked. But yeah. Even at home on your
yeah,
4K
a
set,
4K
yeah,
screen
that
at
type of
home. Yeah.
thing, if you
Hmm.
have HDR and all that stuff, see how those visuals would pop. Because in the theater that we were, which is a standard screen, it was beautiful,
Hmm.
breathtaking.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film, and I can't wait to be able to see it, on a 4K screen or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that for sure. Um, so that aside, what were your overall thoughts about the film? Just kind of non-spoiler for the moment.
Yeah, okay. I liked it a lot. I don't know if I loved it yet. And this is only after one viewing. I definitely gonna watch this a few more times.
Hmm.
I absolutely adored the story. I absolutely loved um, the message in this movie. I already said I love the visuals. Um, there's a few little things that we'll get into later that I didn't quite love. Some of the humor. Uh, Found out I had no idea who Aquafina was. Aquafina plays Sisu, and I found out I'm not a huge Aquafina fan. uh, which is fine. I mean, it's to each their
Hmm.
own. Everything else though, absolutely really loved it. It there's a couple more little tone things that I think we'll get into later that threw me for a
Hmm.
loop also, and I think that kind of falls under humor as well. But yeah, aside from those little things that kind of stopped me from really just falling in love and really getting totally engrossed in this movie, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really loved this film. I mean, there was a lot of things that I really loved about it. I only had, maybe a couple minor nitpicks, and other than that, I thought this was another just excellent animated outing for Disney. And what they've been doing lately with, from Frozen 2 to even before that Moana, and they just put out great animated film after great animated film. And for me, this one is right up there. It might not be on the same level as like a Frozen 2 or a Frozen or a Moana for me, but but I think it's right there with like Onward, um, type of picture for me that I would say is on an equal level.
Yeah, so I was thinking that a little bit as I was watching it. Disney, definitely this is another Disney Renaissance period that we're in right now.
Hmm.
Those '90s films that we all remember, the Lion King, Aladdin, starting back with like Mermaid and going up through I don't know, maybe like Hunchback or Mulan or somewhere in that range. Often referred to that period as like the Disney Renaissance period, where after the '80s they were really not doing so hot in Disney animation. '90s really resurrected that, and we're in another one of those ages right now. I probably trace it back to like the Tangled era,
Hmm. Hmm.
and bring it up through now, where they're really doing some amazing stuff, and this is definitely in that category.
Yeah, it's definitely right up there for me. Um, yeah, and we had Kelly Marie Tran actually in lead role. We're Star Wars fans. We know she played Rose Tico in Star Wars in the sequel trilogy,
Yeah,
and she's in the lead role as Raya. And we also have Aquafina, Daniel Day Kim, and Benedict Wong, who also lend their voices here. So let's talk about characters for a little bit. Which characters? What were your thoughts on the characters? I guess.
yeah. So you left out Alan Tudyk.
I should have thrown Alan Tudyk in there because he's another Star Wars guy, K2SO.
Alan Tudyk is
Yeah,
in there. Of course, he's Tuk, which is like a
yeah,
little.
yeah,
Well, it starts off as a little armadillo hedgehog thing,
yeah, something like that.
and it grows up to be a rather large armadillo hedgehog thing. But
Needless to say, I ordered one of those on Amazon for Sydney,
I can
like right
imagine.
after
Yeah,
the movie.
yeah. Denise was sitting right next to me, and she's like, "That thing is so adorable."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's another cute critter for Disney, for sure. Um, they should really just record Alan Tudyk doing random animal noises, and they're kind of covered for the next couple decades, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So I thought the cast was really great. Namari is another standout one, voiced by Gemma Chan. She's actually going to be in Eternals and Marvel coming up soon.
Mm,
She was in
mm-hmm.
Crazy Rich Asians. I thought she was really, really good. Sandra Oh, I don't know if you saw that, but Sandra Oh is in that.
Yeah.
For any Grey's Anatomy fans out there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Kelly Marie Tran, you already mentioned. I thought she did excellent as Raya. Really good in that lead voiceover role. She's done a little bit of voice work in the past. I know she was in Lego Star Wars Christmas special, so she's done a little bit of that stuff. But I think she did really well in this role.
Yeah, I think at first I had a hard time like not seeing her when I was listening to her voice, not
Oh,
seeing Kelly
really?
Marie Tran in my mind. But that
Okay,
went away eventually, and it just became the character for me, and that kind of went away. So,
gotcha.
but yeah, I'm with you. I really enjoyed Kelly Marie Tran and the role as Raya. Eh, I don't know about the Sisu. Is it Sisu?
Sisu, yeah,
I didn't know
Sisu.
quite what to think of the Sisu character played by Aquafina.
Sisu
You
threw
know,
me for a big loop, and that's kind
yeah,
of
there.
where I started to. I don't know.
I feel like this character is almost like the Jar Jar Binks of Raya and the Last Dragon, where it's it's not that bad. No, I love Jar Jar. Don't get me wrong here.
I do too.
Um, but this character could be slightly annoying, and all the jokes didn't always land, but
that
she
was
was
that was a
still essential to the story.
that was a big thing for me, was the humor in this. The jokes
Hmm.
definitely did not always land for me, and it
Right,
wasn't
right.
just for me. We were in a theater and there wasn't a lot of people there, but you could hear when the jokes landed and when they didn't, and there was a lot
Hmm.
that didn't land. It wasn't a home run in the terms of humor.
Right.
And I think you mentioned after we got out of the theater that it was you weren't a fan of the Aquafina humor, and I think that's kind of what it is. It's kind of that brand of humor. Some of this is almost slapstick in a way,
Hmm.
in a little bit of an odd way for me. It just didn't land the whole way through. I mean, a lot of it was funny. The other thing that I have to remember here is that my daughter was sitting next to me and giggling for a lot of the
Oh
stuff that I
yeah, yeah.
wasn't
Like kids,
giggling
I think
for.
will think. Yeah, they'll think
Yeah,
it was fun.
so I mean that's the other side of that coin is that it might not be my humor, but it definitely was more my daughter's humor, and it could be other people's humor
Hmm.
too. So,
Yeah, for
uh,
sure.
and then
And you know what?
go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just gonna say, kind of piggybacking on the humor idea, there were some tone things that I had a little bit of trouble with. It starts off. So, first of all, it starts off like I fell in love with it right off the bat.
Hmm.
Because it starts off with almost this. I mean, it's Indiana Jones. It really is Indiana
Yeah.
Jones to start off with. You're going through the temple. It comes back to that later, almost with the kind of balancing the weight between the piece of the dragon crystal that they're picking up versus the hand of the statue that's going to set off a trap. I mean,
Hmm.
there's some stuff that's almost like direct Indiana Jones um, uh, inspired there, but it also has this weird mix of like almost everything. It's like there's this like dystopian sci-fi. There's fantasy. It goes into martial arts epics. It's
Hmm.
action adventure. All this other stuff. But then you have these weird things like the like the baby and the monkeys or
Yeah, yeah.
ongies. I forget how
The
they actually
con
say that.
baby or
Yeah,
whatever.
the con baby. That was a little weird for me. Like
That was a little weird. Yeah.
I was getting a little tired of Con Baby after a little while.
Hmm.
I don't know. It just didn't quite work for me. So,
Yeah.
but you had like that's kind of like it's kind of why I tie that with humor because the Con Baby is definitely supposed to be funny and there are some funny
Hmm.
parts to it. Again, my daughter was laughing where I maybe wasn't laughing, but you kind of juxtapose that with how it starts with this like treasure hunt, fantasy sci-fi epic, and then you get into the really kind of awkward humor, and that's where it fell apart a little bit for me as well.
Sure. I'll tell you what character really did work for me and really landed for me with the humor was I think it was Tong,
Tong
played by
is the yeah
Benedict Wong.
yeah
Um and he played, I think it was Wong in like Doctor Strange. Is his name Wong
okay.
in that, or is it, I
Wow,
think
Wong or Wan, I forget which one it is.
Juan or Wong, something like that. And
Yeah,
he plays that character in Doctor Strange and then in Infinity War and everything. And man, I did think that character was funny and some of that humor landed for me. So I enjoyed that character for sure.
yeah. Some of the other characters are really really great. You
Hmm.
mentioned Tong. I definitely think Tong is a great character. Namari is a wonderful character. The play back and forth between Raya and Namari is excellent. It's really
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And then the story that they tell between the two of those is amazing as well. I mean,
Hmm.
so like I was talking for a long time here about stuff that I didn't like so much, and actually that's kind of the end of my list of stuff that I didn't like. Um,
Yeah, I had the same issues that you did. Some of the humor didn't land.
right.
The Aquafina character, the baby con baby thing. So yeah, why don't we move into what we really did like or love about this film?
Yeah, yeah. Loved. I mean, I'm gonna mention the visuals again because visually this was
Hmm.
stunning. I mean, there's five different worlds here, each kind of named after parts of a dragon. There's heart, tail, fang, talon, and spine.
Hmm.
And each of these different worlds are unique, different. They feel unique and different. A lot of this almost felt like a video game to me at some points because like you're going through a video game with different levels and you get different worlds. Like I'm thinking like almost like a Zelda game, where all these different kingdoms or worlds are very distinct and very unique, and it kind of feels that way because you have like the frozen snowy kingdom, you have the desert kingdom, you have
Hmm.
this lush opulent kingdom, you have kind of like a jungle, you have all this different stuff, and they're so different, they're unique, and they're all beautiful. Like even the desert scenes that are supposed to be
Hmm.
barren, it looks really creative. You have these dried up rivers. You start kind of you start kind of the real story because I mean you start when when Raya is a little bit younger, and then you advance a number of years. And when you start the real story, she starts in the desert, and you get this really cool looking dried up river, and then there's a shipwreck at the end of this, and she's riding Tuk, and Tuk
Mhm.
kind of gets to the end of the road there, and you can't go any further. Again, kind of like a video game, you can ride your steed up to a certain point, and then you have to dismount and do the actual level. And that happens a few times, and she can't advance. She can't advance any further with Tuk, so she has to get off. But just beautiful. Heart is a
Yeah.
beautiful looking kingdom, and it's creative. You have kind of this crazy looking rock formation. Where some of the kingdom sits up on. It's just that's one of the things that I loved is just how this movie looked.
Same here. I thought it was tremendous world building.
Oh
I
yeah,
just
yeah,
really fell in love with
yeah,
this Kamandra
yes.
place that we were, where we got to visit and throughout this film, and going to all those different locations, and that being a big part of the story as well. So I'm with you. I loved that about it too.
The colors are incredible, and Sisu. For as much as I didn't so much love the character looked beautiful. The dragons look
Oh yeah.
beautiful. The colors in the
Hmm.
dragons. There's one shot where of Sisu up close. I think Raya's giving her a hug, and the fur just looks unreal.
Hmm.
How that's animated and brought to life looks so good. I was blown away by that type of stuff. And again, this wasn't even like a 4K high def screen. This is just it's kind of a standard movie theater screen.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see that in a 4K setting. But
Hmm.
again, beautiful looking movie.
Yeah, one of the things I really loved about this film was the mythology that it created,
Yeah,
really. This whole idea of bringing these different pieces of the dragon gem together, and that being kind of, I guess, I don't know what I want to call it, the MacGuffin sort of this of the story, is her going and collecting all
right.
these pieces and putting them together. So I really liked the mythology of it, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It really feels like a fantasy.
Hmm.
This fantasy epic. It mixed in with all these because I mean, it's a very heavily Asian inspired movie, even though it's not actually historically anything that we know in our world. This is like
Hmm.
so it kind of has that Middle Earth vibe a little bit, where it
Yeah.
it kind of feels like our world, but it's only inspired by that. It's kind of a mix up of these different inspirations. And like as I'm sitting there, I didn't really go in knowing much about the production or the backstory of this movie. So I'm sitting there kind of going in thinking this is like a Chinese fairy tale, and it's not. It's nowhere
Right.
near that. It has influences there, but there's
Hmm.
also influences across all of Asia. Um, the cast it's really well cast. The cast backs that up totally. It's almost all
Hmm.
Asian American Asian cast
Hmm.
characters because I think that was just wonderful. It
Oh
added to
yeah.
that fantasy feel. Like you mentioned the world building, it just added to that. I thought it was wonderful.
Me too. Absolutely. And I thought this film had a very relevant message as well of,
Yeah,
these characters from these different places, these different locations with different viewpoints about who should have this dragon gem. Why should
right.
it be why should it be in the heart area, as opposed to the fang area, or the, any of the other areas. And just, but really it was a story about them having to come together. And I guess I'll throw up a spoiler warning here a little bit. Just Raya's mission involved going and getting these pieces from different places, but as she did that, she needed the people from each of these different locations to
Yeah,
come together,
yeah. She's
and
yeah,
and for it all to work, they had to trust each other,
yeah.
and it
She's
all came down to trust,
it,
you know.
it was really
Yeah.
interesting. She's collecting these characters as she's going along, also collecting
Mhm.
the pieces of the dragon. They become like the microcosm for healing. Kamandra, their world.
Yeah.
That little
Mhm.
group kind of they come together as they go along, and that becomes healing themselves in a smaller sense, and then being able to heal the rest of the kingdom as well. But yeah, that story, that message, I loved it. Kind of healing the world through trust. Trusting one another. I thought that was incredibly timely. I think it was really well told. But not just that. There's a different element of that too that deals directly with Sisu, and that's kind of like, why trust is so important. Because trust for Sisu didn't just, it kind of changed her as a character. Her brothers and sisters placed trust in her to protect this dragon crystal that they created, and that gave her something, to feel um, important. Maybe that's not the right word, but
Mhm.
it gave her purpose. That's
Yes,
that's what
gave
I
her
was. Yeah,
purpose, yeah.
that's what I was looking for. Like it gave her a reason, you know, a goal to achieve, a reason to be doing this stuff that she's doing, and that changed her. From something that she didn't know who she was. She was kind of lost.
Mhm.
That's the thing that was so important to her, and I think that's something that we can learn. I mean, placing trust in someone else isn't just you know saying it's like that's important for them. That's
Yeah.
showing them that you believe in them, and that's important
Mhm.
as well. So I mean, it's like you have these two different versions of trust, where how trusting each other, we can bring each other together that way, but then also how important trust is for a person, what that means for someone.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And I think Raya, which is by the way an amazing, awesome character,
Mhm.
um,
Not a
but she didn't
perfect
trust.
character either,
Not a perfect character. She,
and I
she
appreciate that
has.
too. Yeah.
And that's good,
Yeah.
but she had no trust, for
No.
anybody
Yeah.
based
Yeah.
on her experiences, and it's understandable, but she had no trust, and I think she needed Sisu's trust to kind of rub off on her a little bit,
Yeah.
even though sometimes Sisu was a little too trusting and kind of this blind trust, and it got them into a little trouble. Um, but I think Raya learned that from her, that she needed to take that first step towards
Hmm.
trust to
Yeah.
really truly heal this kingdom.
They all kind of had trouble with trust.
Mhm.
Namari has this trouble with trust that she doesn't trust, she doesn't trust Raya's intentions. Uh, you um, Noi even being a baby, it's just so weird. But her parents are gone. I mean, she has to live on her
Mhm.
own. She has to, so has some trust issues. They all kind of have these little issues with trust that they can
Yeah.
each grow past in a different way.
Yeah. And from we've been talking lately about looking at the conflict in stories, and looking at the
Mhm.
different points of view within a conflict. What do you think was the main conflict of this film, and then how was it resolved?
I mean, I think we just talked about it a lot. It goes back to
Mhm.
the lack of trust between everybody, in some way.
Yeah.
That tears the world apart. Raya goes through this thing where she feels like she's the one that broke the world. As is what she says through the movie a couple times.
Mhm.
So she has to get past that. Namari has to get past this idea that that she's from Fang, right? Or is it Talon? I get those two mixed up a little
I
bit.
forget. Yeah, I need to watch it again, obviously.
Yeah, but she feels like the dragon crystal has to be there, and she doesn't trust Heart, for wanting to keep it. So does everyone else, for that matter. Uh,
Mhm.
so the conflict, I think, really comes down to not trusting your neighbor, the people around you, the people in your world that inhabit you, that come from different places, that you know,
Yeah.
don't believe the same things. Losing trust or faith in the people around you. I think that's the main kind of conflict here, that really boils up and boils over and causes a lot of other little conflicts that surround that.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it was all about, at the end, these characters deciding to take a step take a step towards trusting your neighbor, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I think it really culminated beautifully in that scene when they all had to trust each other,
Hmm.
you know, and just take that leap of faith, sort of.
Sisu's a large part of that. For as much as
Mhm.
the character I wasn't a huge fan of, the symbols and the message that that character portrays are both really good. Uh,
Yeah.
and it's done a little bit different way. Sisu's a little more forthcoming with Raya. She's a little bit she talks to her a little bit more. She helps Raya overcome her mistrust. Through kind of almost counseling a little bit, even if she's
Mhm.
not really trying to. She's telling her, she's encouraging her to be more outgoing, to take that first step. That's when you mentioned
Mhm.
first step, but that's actually like a direct quote in the movie. Sometimes you have to take the first step, even if you don't, even if you're not ready, or something along those
Yeah.
lines. But then it's more quiet when she does it with Namari. She doesn't ever really come out and say anything to Namari. It's more a feeling with Namari. It's more just seeing her, because every time that Sisu and Namari kind of speak, it's really unspoken. It's through eye contact.
Mhm.
It's done a little bit of a different way. So the way that Sisu is used is really beautiful.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think in just thinking about our world currently, I think one of the biggest problems we face is we're not willing to take that step towards the other person. We want we want to defend our position. We want to give our opinion and stick to it and go into fight mode sometimes, as I said before. But um really for us to find common ground and trust one another, we have to take that step of faith and trying to take that step towards that person that's different from us and has a different perspective, rather than like taking a step back or fighting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 definitely.
Yeah. So Adam, how would you rate this film if you had to give it a score?
So going into this talk, I mean, I was a little bit like on the like mid 7 range, but I think it kind of
Hmm.
came up at getting some thoughts out. So I mean, it's like kind of like an 8 range. I mean, it's like I said, it's not perfect. It's got
Hmm.
some issues for me that, but again, I've only seen it once, so I really want to see it again and see how it turns out now that I kind of know what it is. Uh, but I mean, 8 range. Some things that I really love, but I got to take a few points off for some things that bugged me the first time.
Sure enough. Yeah. So solid 8 though. And
Yeah,
um yeah, I mean, I don't really like doing this unless I've seen it twice, but I have to go with my gut and my initial feelings coming out of the theater. I absolutely loved it. I felt it was nearly perfect. There were a couple things that I agree with you on that um, kind of brought it down just a little bit. But I went with a 9.5 out of 10. I really felt that this was pretty close to being perfect for me. Um, and there was a lot that I really loved about it. But if I see it a second time, maybe that changes a little bit.
yeah.
But yeah, that's where I'm at with it right now.
I want to say one more thing about Aquafina before we wrap this up. But after I found out who that was, I went and did some research and actually found a few videos. And I watched her on a Hot Ones episode on YouTube. I don't know if you're familiar with Hot Ones, but it's kind of
I'm not.
it's an interview show. Where
Hmm.
uh, the host, I'm not going to know his name. The host will sit down with someone, and they'll kind of do a number of questions in between rounds of eating hot chicken wings with different intensities of hot sauce. So you start off with kind of like the more mild range, and then you get up to like the atomic range. So she
Yeah.
was on that, and she was talking to him, and I was kind of a fan of her on that. Just kind of getting her
Hmm.
perspective on things and hearing her answers to some of that stuff. I really enjoyed her episode of that and the answers that she gave. I thought very insightful stuff. It's just something weird about the humor. I think it's the humor. Like it's
Yeah.
not actually Aquafina. I think
No, no.
I'm
It's
not
just
that I
the
didn't
style,
enjoy.
the
Yeah,
style of humor.
it
Yeah,
was really
didn't always land for me either.
yeah, it was really just the humor and like so separating Aquafina from just the humor of that movie. I think it's really just the style of humor. You know, I found out that it wasn't really necessarily Aquafina that I wasn't a fan of. It was more just that style of humor, I think.
Yeah, I don't really I wasn't really familiar with Aquafina, before seeing this other than just knowing the name.
Yeah, okay.
Um, being aware of this person named Aquafina, so I'll have to look into more of her work, I guess.
And I think
But
really it
yeah.
was just kind of the juxtaposition because you start off with, I started off seeing the Indiana Jones stuff, and then you get into like some of the
Mhm.
sci-fi and fantasy because they go right into like the world building stuff. And I was thinking that's what I was in for, and then when the humor started to kick in, it changed, and I think that's where
Yeah.
I started to get lost. But I mean, but I just wanted to bring that up about Aquafina on Hot Ones, and if you get a chance, check that out because it's a really
Yeah.
good interview, and I really like some of the stuff that she had to say there. So
I'll have to check it out for sure. But yeah, I think that pretty much concludes our review of Raya and the Last Dragon. I would say that we would both probably recommend seeing this, whether it's in the theater or on
yeah,
Disney Plus at home.
yeah,
And I can't know about you, but I can't wait to watch it again.
yeah. No, I'm definitely looking forward to watch it again, and I know it's coming to Disney Plus for free in June, I believe, is what I saw. Um,
Awesome.
So even if you're not looking to go out to the theater, don't want to spend $30, it will be coming pretty soon, and I'm pretty sure it's June. Don't quote me on it totally, but I'm pretty sure it's
It's
June.
3 months makes sense. So yeah,
I
that
think
sounds
that's
about
about what
right.
they did for Milan.
Milan. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I'll be looking forward to that. And thank you all for watching this review. I hope you enjoy Raya and the Last Dragon, if you choose to watch it. And stay tuned to From a Certain Point of View. Everything we said today was true.
a certain point of view.